Well, hello everybody. This is Carol King, the developer of Custom Home Builder Solutions, also known as CHS. In this video, I would like to talk about the various browsers that you can use to use CHS. CHS is a web-based software, meaning that you are using the internet and some browser. In a lot of our documents, we recommend Firefox because I actually do most of my developing and testing in the Firefox browser, and so does the software company that I use to do web development. They do a lot of Firefox testing, and we've had the best luck, I think. I think Chrome is okay right now. It used to be that it was doing a lot of blocking of things, and so we weren't recommending it so much, but it might be okay for you to use. And if you're on Windows 10 or above, it will probably supply you with Microsoft Edge, and so that's one that you might just launch off and start using. And I think it's been okay. I haven't heard any complaints about it. But we like to work in Firefox, and there's a couple of features I'm going to show you that I like best, especially for handing off PDFs to your own computer. Speaking of that, what you need to understand, and what I had to learn when I was developing, is that when you're working on the web, your computer reaches out to our server to bring stuff down to your screen. Like right here, while I'm just sitting idle, all of this is just on my own computer, opened by my browser. This area up here is provided by your browser and any other toolbars you have, and not provided by us. So there's some things you can do to make sure that your browser stays healthy for being able to serve up CHS stuff in this part. And I'd like to just make that distinction because it's good to understand that. A lot of times I ask somebody what browser they're on and they don't know, and they even almost ask me what is a browser. And a browser is what you use, to go surf this internet, and you have different options for browsers. But the biggest thing to understand, especially like when you're opening PDFs, is that CHS prepares the PDF out on our server and then hands it off to your computer. Now I'm going to go ahead and talk about for a second a couple of things on this Launch tab. Generally it'll open and you can look at recent comments that have been sent to or from you, or other comments from other users, from your home buyers, from your contacts, but that's not what this video is about. So it's just a Launch tab, and we use this area to give you some latest information and information about latest updates. Normally you will continue to the main menu, and that's where you'll be doing most all your work. But I'm going to go back to the Launch tab because I want to click this General Use Help. I super encourage you to use this, especially if you're new to CHS, and to go through these first 2 or 3 things. This is actually the video that I'm preparing right now. Watch this: browser setup, CHS support, and troubleshoot tips. Now what there is a document here which is the same document as this CHS user connection guide. This connection guide is available on your login window before you even actually open your CHS file, and you really should read all of it because it has these tips in it that I'm going to be going over. But I'm going to go ahead and open it from here. It'll be the same thing either way. Now I want you to notice some behavior that I have here. Because I'm in Firefox and I said I want to open a PDF, which now CHS is going to hand it down to you and your computer, and you actually control what happens with the PDF. When you print checks, CHS prepares a PDF of the checks and hands it off to your computer. And there's some very important things you need to do, like making sure that you tell your printer to keep it at actual size, not shrink to fit or make it look better. The trouble with browsers is they start trying to think for us also as they hand it off, and that's outside of CHS's purview. Once it's handed off to your computer, we really can't control anything. So this is really neat in that I have Firefox actually set up to open this kind of window for me, and I'll show you in a minute how I do that. And I'm going to click Open with Adobe. It's serving up my default PDF that I've told my computer that this is my default PDF reader. Please talk to your technician, or you're welcome to call our technician. If you call us, we can give you his number to talk about how to set up your particular computer to show what your default PDF reader is. So instead of just automatically downloading and having it hidden down here or behind some arrow up here, I get this box, which makes it a lot easier for me to get to my Adobe Acrobat Reader a lot faster. And so I'm in my own Adobe Acrobat Reader, and I'm going to just leave this open over here so that I can refer to it again. But first of all, this little information here is probably not that as important as it used to be. We used to pop up messages, and the way those messages popped up, sometimes your browser stuck something like this in here telling you to prevent this page from creating additional dialogues. What they're referring to is pop-ups because they're trying to protect you from ads, and I can assure you that CHS does not put ads. But if you happen to see this type of box pop up, do not ever check mark this. We are providing you with information, or the pop-up box might be taking you to your next window, so if you tell it to prevent this, it's kind of hard to undo, actually. We do have a hint, which I'll show you here. Let me minimize that. On our window, critical browser tips, and it's again telling you not to check mark this. And an important tip in Firefox maybe, or in probably most browsers, to get it to not be preventing that in your future sessions of opening browsers, we have a tip here about doing a hard refresh, and it should take care of that. If not, you can talk to our technician. I'm not trying to scare you about things, it's just working on the web no matter what, which is so convenient because we can do so many things like taking care of these comments and having other people get on, you know, that type of thing. If I go back over here to my PDF, we'll continue on. This tells you how to connect to CHS and various things to do to open your company setup. Please read this. This tells you about how to renew your services each month. CHS is a subscription-based software, and you can renew. This tells you how to add or remove users that you have set up. This also, if you have additional companies that you own, and you want to have an additional company data file in CHS under your main umbrella, this tells you how to let us know about that so that we will set it up for you. Please read this part about letting your antivirus program know that CHS is okay. If you have your settings so high, or it doesn't think that where you're working at CHS on the web is safe, it might give you some issues. So you might need to, if you have a heavy-duty antivirus, you might need to work with your computer technician to make sure that CHS is safe. I'm on Firefox, and what this instruction is telling us is to first select the three bars at the top right corner, they also call that a hamburger menu, of your Firefox browser menu bar. Select the options menu, select privacy and security, and uncheck block pop-up windows. So if I go back to my Firefox, this is the hamburger menu up here, and if I go to options, and then it says privacy and security, and I slide down. Now that your browsers may change these menus, so if they change up your menus, it's not necessarily going to be that we have the right exact instructions here. I hate how browsers are always changing their stuff. But down here under permissions, you'll see block pop-up windows, and that I have mine unchecked. Actually, the technicians tell me that block up pop-up windows are being so watched by browsers now, etc., that it's not that bad to uncheck this. But do not have this checked in case CHS needs to pop up something to give you a message. So let's go back to our document. That was the first instruction. Now you should turn off history tracking, because a lot of this information is so that you don't slow way down. And if your browser is trying to track history of every single thing you've checked or moved to in our pages, etc., you can really bog your browser down and slow down. And maybe it's not CHS out on the server slowing down. It is actually your browser slowing down. So let's go take a look back at the settings again. And if you scroll around in here, I think the history is up above here. I have selected never remember my history. If you for some reason need to remember your history and you leave it set to remember history, you can come in here and clear the history out once in a while to help your browser out, because if it's holding on to history, I promise you it is going to slow down. Let's go back to our document. Strongly recommended, and this is how I got Firefox to serve up and ask me if I wanted to open my PDF in Adobe Acrobat. My selection open in Firefox. So let's go back to Firefox, and it says go to General and Applications. General, and then let's look for applications in here. And notice that Portable Document Format PDF, it's giving me some options for how to open it, like Always Ask, Save File, etc. But I found the best one to be Open in Firefox, and then that window we got that popped up that asked me if I wanted to open it in my Adobe Acrobat Reader happens because of this particular setting. So it's the best setting. I'll show you the difference in some other things. If it just says save file, it's going to just put it in a little arrow like this one up here that you have to know about when it's downloaded to your own computer. Again, I am in Firefox stuff and not in CHS stuff right now. And it might be that all it does is show you the arrow depending on your setting here, and you have to know to click the arrow and then go to click on it to open. So the way you can get what I got is this. It can be very important when you're printing checks, etc. Let's go back to the user connection guide. This is critically important right here about setting your printer up for checks and 1099s. When we design checks, we have to hand it off as a PDF for it to print on checks that you have based on the style you select in CHS. Or when we design 1099s, you're sticking a form in your printer and we need it to fit exactly. So I've given a couple of examples, but your printer is going to control what box opens up here. So this was a LaserJet I had. This is a Brother printer I had. But notice how paper scaling over here I set to none to make sure that it did not try to resize this. And over here in this Brother printer, I made sure I did not have fit checked and that I did actual size. And we do want portrait or letter most of the time. Once you set these for the first printing, it should remember it. But if you fit, then your printer is going to try to make your PDF the prettiest spacing it can, which may not fit on your forms. So this is very important to know. Now, what I'd like you to be sure that you read is what you can do to provide CHS with a healthy environment. Please read these things. These are things we cannot control, but it's giving you all sorts of tips about how if you start slowing way down or you have trouble, first of all, one thing is to just log off CHS, use the X button, and by X button for your browser, I mean way up here at the top right. Close your browser all the way down. One thing you should also not have, let's go ahead and close these options now we're through with that, is you should not have a bunch of tabs for other websites open, like this plus button where you can add this to your browser, because every other website that you open is going to take up memory and take away from CHS, from your computer being able to serve CHS up as fast as it can. So that's very important to do, is to just watch what you have open on your computer. If you have a ton of things that load on startup, a ton of other programs open. This is a browser, like I said, and this is just a program. A browser is just a program on your own computer. That means that it uses up some resources, and all your other programs use up resources on your computer. So you could be causing it to seem like it's CHS being slow, but it is actually your machine. I'm not trying to blame other things. I'm just saying this is how it is. The other thing is that if you don't have a good high-speed internet connection, CHS will of course run slower for you than for other people. Your internet connection and the speed of your internet connection is very important. I think we have some tips about looking at your speed somewhere in here. Also, don't have a whole lot of add-ins and toolbars in your browser. We give some tips about how to remove add-ins, clear your browser history, close extra browser tabs, scan your system for viruses, make sure you don't have any viruses on there slowing down, avoid too many startup programs, and you should restart or reboot your computer always at least once a week to help clear it out. Make sure your system has enough memory. Are you running too many programs at once? Always log off and close your browser. We do have a 30-minute idle session because we are told you really must have that with a website for security purposes. Right here, make sure you have a high-performing internet connection. It doesn't matter how efficient your browser is if your internet connection is slow. But I wanted to show you that there's a website, speedtest.net, that you can go to that will help you see how fast your computer is. And you should have this Mbps thing or faster according to the various technicians. All of this is not in my huge area of expertise. If we start talking about this stuff, I might quite often hand you off to our technician that really does know about all of this and can help log onto your computer and help you out with a whole lot of these things. And I don't have the thing set up like I showed you about preview in Firefox. I won't get this box as easily, and I'll just see the downward arrow like I said. Hopefully that helps you understand some stuff about controlling your browser, showing you where you can get a lot of tips. The troubleshoot tips here on the launch tab is also talking about printing and opening reports, how to handle some of that, pretty much stuff that I went over. But it's telling you some of the first things to do is shut down your browser. Please read the user guide for hints, etc. For support. Now about support, we provide support by phone and not email. After providing support for a number of years, we have learned that email is often not clear and that we're needing to write back and ask you several questions because you may think it's a simple question, but we may need to know, are you asking about this or this or this? Or you take out a lot of time writing emails and making screenshots, and a lot of times we don't need the screenshots. So we provide support by phone so that we can better understand your need. We'd like you to be at the computer so that if we ask you to do something or click something and tell us what you're clicking and what message you're getting, you can do that. It's much better if you just immediately call us to take care of anything you're wondering about or any question you have or any support issue that you might be having. Now I've moved to the main menu to real quickly show you one more thing to prove that the browser is controlling some things that CHS is not. And that has to do with your view. So if I go up here to click the 3 hamburger menu things again, I'm going to see a zoom. And I have mine set at 100% so that I can view it pretty well. But look what starts happening if I start doing a minus. And your settings on your computer might be doing this. Now CHS is not presenting this way. Your browser is presenting this way. So that I, like I said, always usually use 100%. Now different browsers like Chrome or Microsoft Edge, maybe you'll consider your view to be better and do something different than 100%. The other thing that can control how you are seeing CHS is how you have your screen set up on your own laptop or computer. If you have it set to really small, then CHS is going to be really small. If you have things to see on your desktop, etc., on your computer to really large, then CHS will also be really large. Once you open your browser will first respond to that, and then you can start controlling your browser with various options like this. And like I said, all 3 browsers that I was going over, Chrome, Microsoft Edge, and Firefox, seem to have this option pretty up front. I just wanted to be sure that you get that point, and it helps you understand more about how a lot of stuff is coming from your machine. The actual screens, the presentation of data, and entering data, etc., is coming from CHS. The last thing I'll leave you with, if you're new to CHS and you've continued to the main menu, is that the very first thing you need to do is setup and help and CHS setup steps. And please step through these. All of these have videos attached to them. They open help for them. Again, this one that I'm talking about is right here behind this. Watch this: browser setup, CHS support, and troubleshoot tips, which is this particular video. And I'm wanting to be sure that you watch this and take some time to understand and realize that your browsers and your computer and your setup and how many things you have open have a big impact on speed, and most especially tracking history can really slow you down. So I hope that helps you have a better experience, a good experience with CHS, understanding how you have some control over all of this speed. And thank you for watching.